Hi, this is Angela from Angela's Paper Arts. So today I'd like to talk to you about the new Stampin' Up blending brushes. And you may be wondering, why would I need these brushes and what are they? Here's a couple of cards I've made using the brushes to blend ink onto the cardstock. But I'll talk a little bit more about those later. But let's firstly look at the brush itself. So it comes in a pack of 3 for 21 Australian dollars. So it works out $7 each for each brush. I did buy another brand prior to Stampin' Up releasing these, a good quality brush, and they were actually slightly more expensive. So I think these are quite comparable to the quality and also the price point for quality brushes. So taking them out of the packet, you may want to keep this packet for storage if you're traveling, going to a crop or something like that. So it is a handy little storage case. And what you have here, some of the questions I've been asked are they foam or are they a bristle? And they are a very soft bristle. It's not a foam. You can see it's domed. And what I like about it is it's white. So if I take out one of the ones I have used, I can see easily the colour of the ink that's on there without any problem at all. So it is a bristle. It's very soft, very tactile actually, and it allows for the ink to go onto the paper really well, and I'll show you how to do that. Some people have also been asking me, how do I clean these things? The simplest way to clean it, and if I just grab a piece of scrap paper, and again, if I take the one I have used in a card, in fact I used it on that yellow card that I showed you before, all you need to do is rub that onto a scratch paper piece of paper until the ink no longer shows on the paper. The other thing, if you really want to be thorough about it, is just grab a microfiber cloth and just rub it onto the microfiber cloth, and any ink that's in there will come off, and these are washable. This is just a cheapie from Woolworths, so easy to do. The other thing to get them clean is simply soap and water. So run it under a tap of water with a little bit of liquid soap. But if you do that, make sure you stand the brush upright to dry or bristle down. You don't want to leave your brush like that with water collected on the head, because the water will just pool in amongst the bristles on the head and you could potentially damage this. I haven't done that myself. I've just heard horror stories of people with other brushes. I don't know if that will happen to Stampin' Up, but certainly it's not something I would recommend. I'd recommend you stand it up or lay it face down over something. And I suppose that then leads me on to storage, and probably the easiest way to store these, if you want to leave them on your desk, is just a cup or a mug or some sort of container, and just plonk them in there. And that will suffice. Just try not to have the heads touching into ink if you decide you want to have a brush per colour family. But that's the simplest way. The method, and in fact I'll show you the other way, if you do have some of the old wide stamp cases, which I know unfortunately are discontinued, but if you do have them, you can fit 5 brushes in here easily without them touching each other, and that will close and you can travel with it that way. That keeps the dust off and makes it easy to use as well. Personally, what I have opted for, and I'll just put these back and I'll bring it in and show you, is what they call, in fact let me just take that out, it's a nail art acrylic silicone tool holder. And in fact you can put other tools in here. You can put your bone folder and you can put your scissors in here. So it's a multi-purpose tool holder. I'm using it for my brushes because I'm a bit funny that way. I like things in rainbow order. And so if you're anything like me and want to leave these on your desk standing up without any bother, I'm just using this nail art tool holder. You can get these off eBay and other places like that quite cheaply. Don't pay more than $10. I've seen some of them $25, ridiculous prices. So you can get them cheaper than what a lot of places are asking for. The one thing I don't recommend, I know there are some circular makeup brush holders. Some of them are on a swivel. The handles on these brushes are too wide for a lot of those. Ask me how I know. I do have some here that I store some of my other brushes that I was using in, and I can't get the width of this handle through that type of holder. So I am using this style of holder. Then some people are asking me also, how do these compare to other blending tools? And I'll bring some in and we can talk about them. So if you're anything like me and have been crafting for a long time, I think I'm heading towards 20 years, you will have collected a number of different tools along the way. And what I can say is that the Stampin' Up tools that currently exist, being the sponge daubers and the sponges as such, they're still in the catalogue. I'm not sure how long for, because quite honestly, this is now my go-to tool. The dauber to me still has a place in my craft room because I do like it for sponging the edges of the cardstock. The other thing I like to do is if I have inked up a stamp and want to add a contrasting colour, I like to just dab on a little bit of ink using a dauber. And I find that tool is certainly more useful to me than the clunky sponge. The reason I like these brushes are that they are more, I find them more forgiving than the sponges. So if I just bring in this example where I've used the rectangle sponge as well as the Stampin' Up sponge, how often, if you've used that style, have you ended up with, I mean, I've exaggerated here, but this so often happened that you ended up with a line, a harsh line, using this style of sponge blending tool. Even with the sponge, sometimes you'd end up getting a stray colour or a thicker colour in one spot compared to others, and you'd have to spend a lot more time layering ink to smooth that out. I personally am not going to really use sponges much going forward. The blending brush is my go-to tool now. And so with this, the only reason I would keep a sponge is if you want a texture. So if you're doing ATCs or, you know, there's artist trading cards or other mixed media, sponges are texture. So that would be one reason you want to keep those in your craft room. But if I want a smooth blend, I can't compare the two. There's the brush and there's the sponge. And I'll bring that up closer so you can see. I know I've only done a light layer on here, but it just gives you an idea of how much smoother it applies the ink to cardstock compared to a sponge. But that's my opinion. Other people may have other opinions, but I just wanted to show you why I am moving away from the old-fashioned sponges to the brush. And in fact, I moved away from sponges a few years ago. As you can see here, these are just some of the many brushes I actually have. I bought the makeup brushes, which I know a lot of people did. I identified them using some washi tape or just a circle of their corresponding colour on there. That way these worked well for me. But look at the difference in size. If I just move that, in fact I'll turn that over so you can see this difference in the sizes. This applies the ink so much quicker. The Stampin' Up one applies the ink so much quicker. The other thing is, if I didn't know what ink was on there and I hadn't cleaned it properly, I could end up putting it on the wrong ink pad, whereas I can see quite easily that I've got green ink on the Stampin' Up sponge. You may be wondering about these little clips that I've got on here. These are not Stampin' Up. I'll admit that straight away. I did buy them to identify, and they do come in all the colour families, to identify the colours on my sponges. I'll be honest and say I was disappointed. They are a 3D printed item because they have very sharp edges on there. I've actually had to file these down so I didn't cut my fingers. So I'm not recommending those. I would suggest you go back to the washi tape option, or even better, if you have a Stampin' Up ink pad, underneath you will see the stickers that we use to apply on the front of the stamp pad. Just take one of those, cut off some of that length, and then just wrap that around as many times as you want. I'm just doing this quickly to show. And there's my blue, that's now my blue brush. So quicker, easier, cheaper than, I'm just going to take that off because I'll put a darker one on, make it more obvious. But better than what I have ended up buying, which, as I said, I'm not going to recommend because of how sharp the edges were. I wasn't happy with the outcome. But again, personal preference. So I suppose that goes on to the question, why do I need more than one set of brushes? So if I've got my set here, do I need more than the 3 that come in the pack? Technically no, because you can clean them, as I showed you before. Just put it on a microfiber towel or a bit of scratch paper, and then go on with your blending, and it's easy enough to clean them. Will I want one per colour family? Yes, because that's me, and anyone that knows me knows I do like that. For example, even with my daubers, I have one per colour in this case, but I do like to have one per colour family for my brushes. So it's just easy to use it. If you do go down this route with the one colour per, one brush per colour family, when you are blending, make sure you start with the lightest colour ink first, and then work your way through the darkest ink in that colour family. So again, if I bring this card back in, I actually did an ombre effect, which you may be able to see on here, where I started light and then got darker. And in fact, I used 3 coloured inks with this one. I'll see if I can quickly grab them. I'll just move those out of the way. So the 3 inks I used to create that ombre effect are these 3 Stampin' Up ones. And as you can see, I've got a mix still of the old pad and the new pads because I haven't had to replace these yet. They last really well. So I started with the So Saffron ink on here, then I moved to the Daffodil Delight, and then I moved on to the Bumblebee to get that graduated tone. Okay. Right, so that's, as I said, start with the light, go to the dark. Even if you're using different colour families, I would, different colour families with the one brush, I would still recommend you start light and work your way through the dark so that you don't accidentally contaminate your ink pad. So some blending tips. The first tip I would recommend is getting yourself, if you don't already have one, I've had this for a wee while now. I also had, when I first started scrapbooking many years ago, I had this old EK Success glass mat, nice big 12 by 12 one, but that's now quite scratched up, so I bought myself a new glass mat. Use a non-porous surface for your ink blending is what I'd recommend. If you don't have a glass mat, the Stampin' Up silicone mat is also non-porous, or even the acetate. The window sheets that we have at Stampin' Up are also, I've knocked myself there, are also non-porous, and the reason for using a non-porous surface is it allows the ink and the tool to glide across the surfaces. The other benefit is that you can, any ink that you tap off on the side of your mat, you can pick up and reuse. I know a lot of people put down a scratch piece of paper and ink blend over that, and that's perfectly fine. You don't get to reuse that ink because the paper absorbs it, as the paper just grips the ink off these things. So let me just do a little quick demo, and I'll show you a few things about blending. Now, let me just find, oh, I want my blue one. There we go. So I've used Balmy Blue ink. So how you hold the brush is really a personal preference. So don't get hung up on, oh, I'm holding the brush the wrong way. If you want, what I have found, if I want a lighter blend or a lighter soft touch of ink, I hold it down the handle like I would a spoon or a fork or a knife. So basically I hold it down the handle. If I want a bit more ink and a bit more control, I hold it up near the head. But you will find what's comfortable for you. As I said, don't get hung up on how to hold the brush. It's really a personal preference thing. The other thing that you may want, if you are covering the whole piece of paper, you might want just a tissue handy so you can put it down on anything that has been inked so that you don't get your finger marks or get inky fingers on there. So to ink up your brush, and as you can see, I tend to be heavy down this end, just do some swirls, get some ink on there. The secret with ink blending is layers of ink. Try not to rush it. Try not to put all the ink on at once. You can just end up with a big splotch. So be patient and use layers of ink to get the blend you want. So I have inked that up. What I normally do is tap it off and then just start off in circular motion, adding the ink onto the paper. Now the first time you put a layer of ink down, it probably won't look too great. You may be happy if you just want a lot, that's just one layer of ink. You might like that, but normally I want a few layers of ink to add some depth. And then I can pick up, because I've got the glass mat, I can pick up that ink, not waste it, and continue blending. And there we go. So that's a very smooth blend on there. If you wanted to add another colour, I might just bring in some green. What I'll do is just wipe that off so I don't accidentally pick up blue when I want to pick up greens. So I've got Old Olive here. Again, same thing, just tap on there, tap off the excess, and am I in camera? There we go. And just swirl it on. And as I said, the first lot won't look too good. But what you're trying to do is also go over where they join, so the ink has a chance to actually blend together to get that smoother, softer ink blend. Yeah, and I'll pick up this ink, might as well put it in the brush and smooth it on. And you can continue doing that and blend your way up. And in fact, that's the sort of thing I did for this card, where I put post-it notes down the side. Let me just show you. This is what I did. I put post-it notes there to mask off the rest of the card. I started with the lighter ink and brought that down, the blue ink, basically what I've done here. And then I brushed on the Old Olive ink at the bottom and just blended through that middle bit so that the green just blends into the blue. And then quite simply I use the Dandelion, not Dandelion Garden, the Dragonfly Garden stamp set, just to stamp the 3 elements on there for a quick and easy card. This does come with a new Dragonfly punch, dual punch, and it is in the new catalogue. The January to June 2021 catalogue. So that's how you can just do a simple background with the blending. So as I said, holding the brush, personal preference, and the secret is not to try and pounce all the ink on at once. Just take your time and build up layers and layers of ink to get a nice smooth blend. So what can you do with these tools? What sort of techniques can you do? Well, first of all, you can create a background, which is what I've done here. The other thing you can do, let me just get it. You can use stencils, and I've got some here. So we've got the basic pattern decorative masks, in stencils and masks. In fact, there's 4 of them in a pack, and as you can see, I've been using this one. So if I just wanted, in fact, I'll just quickly do the dots so you can see what this looks like. To tape down my stencil, I usually, if you're in Australia, Bunnings, low tack delicate tape. And thank you, Alison Douglas, for recommending this. It has been the best tape. It doesn't rip the cardstock and it holds everything in place, and I can just lift it off easily. So I'm just going to take this here because I just want to quickly show you. And as I said, this is just a quick little demo. Again, the same technique as before, but this time I'm just going over the stencil to add some ink, and I'm not being very careful about it. And there we go. There's a nice stencil background. Quick, easy, cheap. I think these are $10 for the set of 4, so they're not expensive compared to some other stencils I've seen, or masks I've seen. The other thing that I have used, again, I'm just going to give that a quick wipe. The other thing I've used are my dies. So don't think of dies as just for die cutting, which certainly I did. As you can see, this Happy Birthday to You with the best plaid builder dies, as well as the coordinating stamp set. I actually used the die as a stencil inside. So I put that down there. Well, in fact, I did that one for the bottom. I masked it off. Let me just show you with a post-it note. And then I got my brush and just brushed over it. And that works so much better than trying to get a sponge through these tiny little grids or a dauber. This just went on so smoothly. And so don't forget to use your dies for stenciling. Just adds a little bit extra interest inside. You can also colour pattern paper. So there's my piece of True Love paper out of the new January to June 2021 catalogue. On the back it's striped, so if you want to do a mail card, you could use that side, or a female card this side. But what I did, I coloured it using the Ombre effect with the 3 inks I spoke about earlier, and that gave it a completely different look compared to just black and white. What else can you do? You can do heat resist embossed. So you emboss an image and then you ink over the top. I don't have a sample of that here, but that's just some of the ideas that, I'll get rid of this so it doesn't glare, reflect all the lights. That's just some of the ideas of what you can do using your ink blending brushes. One of the things I did want to mention is that if you are interested in these brushes, they are in the January to June catalogue, and you can find them in a couple of places. They are on page 70 down here, and it just shows one, but there's actually 3 in a pack. And if you go to the end of the catalogue, I do like how Stampin' Up have changed the catalogues, because at the end of the catalogue you've got a snapshot of all the products in the catalogue. So here are the brushes again on page 86, showing that there are 3 brushes in the pack. If you do buy the blend, a set of 1 or more sets of blending brushes from me, I do have a 2-page PDF for anyone that does purchase from me, and I will email that to you. So that will have tips on how to care for your brushes and techniques for using your brushes as well. So the other advantage is, at the moment until the 28th of February, that any orders of $90 or more, you can choose a free item out of the Celebration catalogue, which Stampin' Up will provide as part of your order. And as an example, this is also an ink blended card. So I did all the ink blending in the background here. It did start off as a white piece of cardstock, but I ink blended it in Bermuda Bay. I stamped the new Celebration A Touch of Ink stamp set, which I think is so cute. Anyone that likes butterflies and birds, it's lovely. And don't think that's the size. I should mention that, because we all got a bit tripped up with that. It's actually a two-page set. So you can see the bird pictured here is actually much bigger in real life. So that's the set I used on this card. But more importantly, inside, I just ink blended the corner and did some splatters of ink as well. So again, I used that soft touch of the ink so it wasn't overpowering. Same with this, and again, splatters of ink to lift it. This paper here comes from the free, again, another Celebration item. It's the Ombre paper. With every $90 order, this is one of the choices you have, and it comes in 4 colours and 2 patterns. So there's the ombre look. So if you're a pink girl like me, you may have noticed I've got a little bit of colour coordination happening here. If you're a pink girl like me, you have got the Rococo Rose pink, you've got Bermuda Bay, and in this other second pattern, because you've got the same in both, you've got Blackberry Bliss and Granny Apple Green in both colours. So you get a full pack of that. I think there's about 48 sheets in there, or something similar to that. So that's what I used on the background. So I didn't have to do the ombre effect. The paper did it for me. So that's all I wanted to share with you today. The ink blending brushes. As I said, if you do purchase 1 or more sets from me, I will email you the 2-page PDF I have created with tips and techniques. But other than that, if you've got any questions, please let me know, and I'm happy to help. Thank you.